For 2 weeks in the summer of 1969, Charles Manson and his family embarked on one of the most horrific murder sprees America has seen. The murder of Hollywood elites in their homes by followers of cult leader Charles Manson was too perplexing for the public and law enforcement to comprehend. 6 hours drive away in the San Francisco Bay Area, perplexity had another name: the Zodiac Killer. Two of the most infamous series of crimes in history in the same state at roughly the same time. Coincidence? Some think not. Join Bad Things as we investigate a possible link between the Manson murders and the Zodiac Killer. Could one of the Manson family acolytes have been the Zodiac? Howard A. Davis authored the Zodiac/Manson connection in 1997, which, according to him, explores the strong possibility that Charles Manson was the mastermind of the Zodiac crime spree, and that one member of the Manson family carried it out to promote his helter-skelter revolution. 1997 was a good year for the Manson/Zodiac tie-in. Former Secret Service agent turned Manson expert Bill Nelson's 1997 book Manson Behind the Scenes included a missing Zodiac letter, a document supposedly found in the possessions of murder victim Doreen Gall. Gall, a teenage resident of the Church of Scientology residence in Los Angeles, allegedly dated Manson follower Bruce Davis. Gall and her friend James Sharp were kidnapped, killed, and left in a downtown alley on November 21, 1969. The killer or killers brutally stabbed and battered both victims. Nelson claimed to have obtained the missing letter during a meeting with retired Los Angeles Police Department Lieutenant Earl Deemer. The letter was typed on white paper and read, "So you think you can fool the old killer? Ha ha. I know all your movements and the time they are made. Time is short. Enjoy life while you can. You are too beautiful to live, and I must kill you. The Zodiac Killer, Zed." The author of the letter had included what looked to be drawings of drops, representing either blood or tears. The letter was signed the Zodiac Killer, yet the Zodiac never used this moniker and always referred to himself as the Zodiac. While Nelson claimed that the Zodiac sent the letter to Gall, others are doubtful and suspected that the letter was a fabrication intended to replicate the typed and handwritten letters ascribed to the Zodiac in another homicide in Riverside, California. Davis and Nelson were not the first to investigate a possible link between the infamous Zodiac crimes and the brutal, bizarre murders linked to the so-called Manson family. Official documents show that detectives working on the Zodiac investigation considered a potential link shortly after the arrest of career criminal and now alleged MKUltra subject Charles Manson and his homicidal family in late 1969. Members of the family were investigated by Special Agent Mel Nicolai of the California State Department of Justice, Homicide Inspector William Armstrong of the San Francisco Police Department, and others looking for a link to the Zodiac slayings. But how did Nelson and Davis come up with the Mason/Zodiac hypothesis, and who was their primary suspect in the Manson family? Nelson's claim of a link between the Manson and Zodiac murders was backed up by a revelation on page 339 of his book Manson Behind the Scenes. Allow me to reveal something very important. I have a well-respected, reliable source who told me about an event in the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office at the highest level. It was after the Manson family had been convicted at a cost of more than $1 million that quite by accident authorities found items used by Zodiac in his crimes, Nelson would write. Nelson's source was Davis, the author of the Zodiac/Manson connection. Incidentally, Davis's book was published by Nelson's Pen Power Publications. How did Davis conclude that the Zodiac was linked to Manson? Another reliable source. In 1974, we had a very small family get-together. My sharp-as-a-tack brother-in-law was there. He was assistant DA for the LA DA's office and helped prosecute Manson and others. He and I were at my dining table, and I asked him why he thought Zodiac stopped killing and writing letters, etc. Or so it seemed to me, as I knew very little about the case. He leaned slightly over towards me and, in his usual still and very serious manner, told me casually, "Because he is in prison." I said, "How can you know that, as the authorities are all looking for him?" He said that as they were going through the personal effects of a male member of the Manson family, they found the Zodiac hood, knife, and other evidence. To make a long story a short conspiracy, the federal government had just spent under $1 million, which was a world record for a trial, on Manson and his group. The funds to conduct another massive trial were unavailable, and authorities believed that the suspect might get off both cases if tried as the Zodiac. After this and other discussions, they decided to suppress what they had found and knew. My brother-in-law then told me that we have it set so that he can never get out. They felt they had this guy in for good now, and that any penalty would be the same or life in prison, so they did what they did, Davis would say. The big question on everyone's minds was which male member of the Manson family had the Zodiac hood, knife, and other evidence in his possessions. Enter Bruce McGregor Davis, Charles Manson's right-hand man. Bruce McGregor Davis was born on October 5, 1942, in Monroe, Louisiana, and raised in Mobile, Alabama. In 1962, he hitchhiked to California and worked as a bartender in Lake Tahoe. Davis reported that he often used cannabis and LSD, hitchhiked, and lived as a drifter. In a February 2023 interview, Davis said that he met Manson in Topanga in 1968, soon after being detained in front of a Malibu, California liquor store for drug possession. Davis claims that when they first met, Manson was in a bathtub being washed by 5 women. Davis has claimed throughout the years that the sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle drew him to the family and kept him there. Davis was seen as an integral family member and extremely close to Manson. Davis says that he was regularly intoxicated with psychedelics such as LSD. This was particularly true throughout the weeks leading up to the gruesome murders. Davis was present in July 1969 when Manson reportedly sliced Gary Hinman's left ear with a cutlass. Bobby Beausoleil reportedly stabbed Hinman to death. However, neither Manson nor Davis were there at the time. However, Davis was involved in the murder of Donald Shorty Shea, a Span's Ranch employee, in late August. Davis said that he was at Span Ranch on August 8, 1969, the night of the Tate murders. He claims that Susan Atkins approached him and told him that they were going out that night and that Manson wanted him to join, but he declined. Davis reported the same thing happened the next night, the night of the La Bianca killings. Davis was convicted in Los Angeles County in 1972 on 2 charges of first-degree murder for the deaths of Hinman and Shea, as well as conspiracy to commit murder and robbery. He was condemned to life in prison in California, where the death penalty had just been abolished. There is no doubt that Davis was a willing part of the murderous family. But the Zodiac killer? What evidence did Howard Davis and Bill Nelson have to support their claim? Their main point of evidence wasn't evidence at all, but a second or maybe even third-hand account by a family member working on the Manson case. When Davis refused to cite his source, Zodiac experts started digging and discovered the person's name related to Howard Davis. In early 1974, his brother-in-law worked as a deputy district attorney at the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, but was employed for only a few months. Bruce Davis's trial took place in 1972. If Howard Davis's brother-in-law only joined the district attorney's office until 1974, it would have been unlikely that he would have participated in the prosecution of Manson, Davis, and others. The duo would then try and tie up Davis's movements to that of the Zodiac murders. Davis was a habitual drifter. Unlike the other members of the family, he drifted in and out of the criminal commune. This supposed evidence was quickly debunked as well. David Faraday and Betty Jensen were killed by the Zodiac killer on December 20th, 1968 in Benicia, California. Davis was confirmed to be in London on this date. Michael Mageau and Darlene Ferrin were shot by the Zodiac killer on July 4th, 1969 in Vallejo, California. It cannot be confirmed where Davis was on the 4th, although it is believed that he was seen at Span Ranch, nearly 400 miles south of where Mageau and Ferrin were attacked. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were stabbed by the Zodiac at Lake Berryessa in Napa, California. Davis was likely in Death Valley at this time, but his precise locations during these dates are unverifiable. On October 11, 1969, Paul Stine was shot and killed in San Francisco. Bruce Davis was in Las Vegas on this day and returned to Death Valley with the rest of the family early the following day. He could not have made the trip from Vegas to San Francisco to Death Valley in this short amount of time. Numerous letters were received between 1972 and 2007 claiming to be from the Zodiac. Davis would have been imprisoned during this time, and his letters would have been sent from prison and closely monitored unless he had an accomplice. The link between Davis's and the Zodiac's appearance has also been debunked. Witnesses and survivors characterized the Zodiac as being 5'8" and weighing 200 pounds or more. Bruce Davis weighed far less at the time the Zodiac murders took place. His height was around 5'8" at the time. However, shoe prints discovered at the Lake Berryessa crime scene were larger than that of Davis. Witnesses to the Stine murder said the killer was in his early 40s. Davis was 27 years old in 1969. They also said that the suspect wore glasses. Davis was not known for wearing glasses as a young man. Other witnesses characterized the Zodiac as barrel-chested, having short dark blonde or light brown hair, and was clean-shaven. Davis kept his almost black hair long and often had facial hair. Davis was far from barrel-chested, having a slight build. As amateur sleuths picked apart the Manson-Zodiac hypotheses, Davis and Nelson were accused of being conspiracy theorists and hoaxers, and rightly so. There is no credible evidence of Bruce Davis or any part of the Manson family being connected or being the Zodiac killer. According to lifelong Zodiac investigators, the most likely reason for Davis and Nelson writing books on this baseless theory was to jump on the Zodiac money-making wagon. A wagon they would quickly be thrown off.